Welcome to our draft reaction show presented by Crestron. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino with you. We don't have a pick to react to yet on this Saturday of the NFL draft. We will get to that shortly. The Giants select here, Paul, at pick number 105 in round number 4. So it's just two selections, much like they pick third overall in the first round. The fourth round mimics round number 1.
Yes.
So they pick third in this round of the draft. We're here in the Hackensack Meridian Health podcast studio. Keep getting better. Paul, the Giants have walked away with Abdul Carter, I'll say it, top edge rusher in this draft class. Jackson Dart, one of those quarterbacks in that tier after Cam Ward. And then in round number 3, they get Darius Alexander, a player that a lot of people had going in round number 2. He gets to the Giants in round 3, a good value pick there. A long, rangy, athletic, big, 3-technique defensive tackle out of Toledo. So we get here in round number 4, and we've talked about the Giants' needs. They've certainly addressed the defensive front. I don't think they're going back into that bucket over the course of the rest of this draft. I would
Probably
be surprised by that.
Point, yeah.
Maybe a plugger at some point if you want, but I don't think you have to. So we're talking now offensive line or some type of weapon on offense.
Yeah, I think so, John. To me, you still have to address the offensive line trenches and get another shot there, but running back has got to be a consideration. I would think right now we're talking about the juice of that running back class right here.
And again,
this is a good spot for it.
I'll say this, Paul. I think running back's in the equation just because of how good the players are. Like, to me, if the Giants went to war next year with Singletary and Tracy, they'd be fine. But the thing is that's where the strength of the class is right now.
No question. It's the heart of the running back core. So I think you're looking at running back. You're probably looking at a consideration of an offensive lineman. And then I think the other consideration may still be cornerback. And I'm not saying that it's a heavy consideration, but I think it's going to be on Joe Shane's mind because the GM just told us a week or so ago that he thought there were, latter day cornerback prospects who could enhance the depth of your team. We know the Giants have had injury trouble at cornerback for years. So are they going to keep an eye on the corners? Yes, they will.
Sure.
But I do agree with you. I think right now, if you still want to get an offensive lineman who can compete for a job, you're running out of time very quickly.
Yeah, you are.
Right, you are. If you're looking for a running back who can be part of a rotation, this is a perfect spot to get one. And again, if you're looking for a corner who's only going to be a depth piece, you could probably even wait around because they're kind of flatlined at this point. I don't know that there's much of a difference between the backup grades of the guys who are still on the board.
Yeah, and look, I think you also look at this offseason as a whole, Paul, coming off of a year where the Giants, 2 years to be quite frank, where the Giants have not just scored enough points.
Mm-hmm.
They have not scored points. Even with the addition of Malik Neighbors last year, they did not score enough points. Really, the only additions besides some depth at offensive tackle that they've added to this team have been on defense and a quarterback. They have not added one weapon, really, at running back, wide receiver, or tight end. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to try to score more points this year, whichever position you want to pinpoint to try to add a player at, you could always use more speed, explosion, big plays to go after players at those spots to help you at those specific positions just to try to score more points. And look, the defense needed help too. I'm not saying they did the wrong thing, but giving this offense a little bit of a boost would not be a bad thing either.
No, not at all. I mean, look, there are still 4, 5, 6, and 7, 3 more rounds to go. Actually, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 4 more rounds to go. I got to get my math right. Giants do not have a 6th round choice, but they do have 2 in the 7th. Again, I know that's on the back end, so there's less significance to those, but they've got picks here. And the 4th round and 5th round choices are very critical. You can talk about the 2 guys in the 7th who are kind of shots in the dark to some degree, but I think the 4th and 5th rounders, you have to be very, very careful and really thoughtful about making these 2 picks because these guys could potentially still be rotational players. There's a chance, given the depth and the depth of the draft and the thin spots on your roster. We just mentioned the 3 areas of concern where I think they could get guys who may earn snaps as rookies. It's possible. Lesser at corner than the other two spots. But it could happen. I mean, heck, we also know the Giants' O-line constantly gets hurt too, and they're going through those guys like pancakes at a breakfast. See, I'm not gonna use the name, at a breakfast place.
Very good. We're making progress, and this is when your mind's half shot on day 3 of the draft. I'm actually pretty impressed.
There you go.
So you have the Titans, then you have the Browns, then you have the Giants. The Titans, it doesn't look like the pick is in yet. That is not flashing on there yet. So, we'll see where that goes as we move forward here, as the Giants are getting ready to pick. All right, so let's go through some names here, Paul.
Yeah.
So fans can talk about exactly who we're looking at here, okay? At running back, the top running back I have left on my board is Cam Skattebo. In fact, he is only one of 2 players with a second-round grade that I had on my board, him and Jack Sawyer. Then I have, in that next tier, Dylan Sampson and Damian Martinez. I think any one of those 3 would be really good picks here. If you're looking for more of your speed, fast, explosive guy, it would be Sampson. If you're looking for more of your mauler, it would be Skattebo, or it would be Damian Martinez. And I think any one of those 3 picks or players would give you good value at this spot.
Yeah, I would add Ollie Gordon to that place, the Oklahoma State guy. I know there have been some off-field issues with him.
I have him more as a round 4 guy, but yes, he is a banger.
He qualifies as a banger. And Trevor Etienne, for not being necessarily the biggest guy, he does play like that. He is a forceful downhill runner.
You think so?
He has
I don't think he runs with much power, but we can disagree on that.
Well, you know why? Because he's low. He's low center of gravity.
He is that.
So he does get to run some downhill stuff, even though he's not necessarily physically imposing, doesn't have a large frame, and doesn't necessarily bowl people over. He gets low, and he's got some might to him. So he's kind of in that category. I'm not necessarily there.
And by the way,
I'm definitely Skattebo, though.
I could throw Devin. I mean, I wouldn't consider him a banger, but Devin Neal was a between the tackles 215-pound running back. He's a good player.
He does some of it, sure.
Jordan James runs with force, even though he's a smaller guy. And then if you're looking again, I already mentioned Dylan Sampson. You're looking for a guy that's really good as receivers. Brashard Smith out of SMU's around. Bashal Tutin is another guy that has some long speed at running back. Those are the guys that you can keep an eye on here for the Giants at running back. All right, let's jump over to wide receiver then, Paul, where we've had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 receivers go off the board already, including a couple guys that I had a little bit later on, Savion Williams and Isaac Tesla, but they're both big and super athletic, so they have a lot of upside. So the receivers I have left here, Paul, if you're looking for more of a speedster, quick, all-around wide receiver, I think it'd be Jalen Royals. He's the next guy for me.
Okay.
If you're looking for 2 bigger wide receivers that I think would be good value here is Alec Iaminor from Stanford.
Yep.
And then I like Torrey Horton from Colorado State.
Yep.
I think that's a guy that would look really good at this spot because he's big, but he's also a pretty good athlete. So those would be the receivers I'd be keeping an eye on if you're looking at that position here at the top of round 4.
Did you mentioned Royals a second ago,
Yes,
right?
I did. He was the first guy I mentioned.
Here's what I wrote down for him, though. I'm not so sure if I wouldn't play him in the slot.
I think you can play them both. I think you can go both, just like Neighbors. So I think that's a guy that you can then rotate back and forth.
Right. And so, the question becomes, are you looking for one of those types of guys, or do you want somebody who you think is strictly a boundary guy?
Yeah.
And that was my only question about Royals.
See, I'm trying to think ahead here a little bit as Wando Robinson hits the end of his contract. Or are you looking for a guy that you can play in the slot?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That's a very interesting
And again,
thought.
who knows? Tomorrow the Giants get signed to a contract extension. I'll look like an idiot. I don't know what their plans are in that regard. But just thinking about the room, Slayton just re-signed to a nice contract. Neighbors is obviously here for the long term. Hyatt is a speed perimeter guy. So it'll be interesting to see where they go in that way.
Well, Iomanor is 6'2", okay? And I wrote down physical instincts and jukes. Doesn't have that extra burst, though. And that's, again, it comes down to what flavor are you looking for.
He's more of a linear wide receiver to me.
Yeah. So anyway, but I didn't have that's it. I only did 12 wide receivers.
I really like Torrey Horton. I think, and by the way, Isaiah Bond's in this mix too. But given the off the field stuff down there,
I'm not going to go there.
I decided to
I'm not going to go there.
Oh, and a wide receiver goes. But not one of the ones we talked about. I think it's Chimere, I believe, Dyke out of Florida.
I do not know of
He
him.
was one of these guys that he's 6 foot, 196 pounds. His testing at the NFL Combine
Well, it says 4.34.
was off the charts. It was really, really strong. So that's a guy who I didn't think when I watched him, and he was at the Senior Bowl too. Like you watched him, he didn't look like he was that fast, but that's what he tested at. So you're obviously trying to, I think teams are trying to shoot for some upside here. We talked about Savion Williams. We talked about Isaac Tesla. Savion Williams is a really good athlete. Tesla tested off the charts as well, and so did Dyke out of Florida. So Tennessee trying to get a wide receiver there to help out their new quarterback, Cam Ward.
Well, typically when you see some of these spectacular numbers for a guy who was not necessarily projected to go higher or maybe was projected to go lower because they just thought the traits were really sexy, this is kind of what winds up happening.
Yeah, I did not do a full write-up on him. I just know from what I saw at the Senior Bowl and his testing. But, I thought he was a day 3 guy. The guys that I've talked about, I like them a little bit more. But, again, talented player, runs really well. All right, you want to take a couple calls here, Paul?
Let's do it.
Or do you want to go through 2 other positions real quick? Offensive line, real fast.
All right.
We're going to go fast here.
All right.
Offensive line, Marcus Embo is really the guy that stands out to me like
I agree.
like a sore thumb. No one else, really. I did not go super deep on offensive linemen. But to me, it would be M'Bow would be the guy that stands out here. I have a 3rd-round grade on him. This would be a really good time to pick him.
You don't like Miles Frazier then?
Oh, you know what? Yes, I didn't do a full write-up on him. I just know what I had for him at the Senior Bowl. But yes, he's more of a 4th-round guy for me. I would have him below M'Bow on my on my list.
M'Bow might have
Frazier's
some more flexibility. Frazier's strictly a guard. I would not put him at tackle.
Yes.
But he plays very, very angry, comes from a great program, big, large frame, powerful, got some agility. I really like Miles Frazier. M'Bow, of course, I definitely think. And Jalen Rivers out of Miami is interesting to me. Now, you saw him at the Senior Bowl, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he's a stiffer guy.
Yeah. But guard tackle flexibility, and they worked him out at center at the Senior Bowl, which kind of intrigues me a little bit.
I think he's more of, I agree. I would have him below M'Bow, but I think that's the guy that is now in the conversation
I would think.
with this pick. I agree with you. I think he would be in the conversation at this pick. I'm absolutely with you on that. And then finally, tight end. If you're looking for a move tight end, Gunnar Helm and Thomas Fidone out of Nebraska. Helm's out of Texas. And then I think if you're looking for more of that blocking tight end, Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame would be the 3 guys at that position group that I'll keep my eye on. But I think the other guys probably have, at those positions, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, probably have a little bit more value.
You are not a fan of Luke Lachey?
Not this high.
Okay.
With all that injury history and a lack of production,
I know.
I can't pick him this high.
The injury history is a big deal. There's no question about that.
And I'll tell you what, Paul, most of the corners that
Oronde Godson's the other guy from Q's I would possibly think of at some point, if you really wanted the tight end.
Quincy Riley at corner would probably be the only corner that I would consider at this spot. So, yeah, I think that's what we're looking at. All right, 201-939-4513. And by the way, just heads up, folks, a little bit after the pick, I'm going to have to step out for probably like 10, 12 minutes or so, and then I'll come back. Paul will take your calls in the meantime. But let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. He's up next. Hey, Hugo.
Well, hey, good morning, I guess, guys, or good afternoon now since we're past noon. Boy, I was sweating it out yesterday when there was a mini run on defensive tackles.
There was it was right at the end of round 2.
Right. Well,
at one point, it was 4 out of 9 picks.
When Alfred Collins went, I was really disappointed.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm happy. I'm happy with the guy we got, and things are looking better. Certainly for our front 7, and I think the objective should be having 6 quality guys in the defensive line room, and maybe we're at 4 or 5 right now. So would not mind it at all. If they think Farmer is the best player on the board, taking him with the next pick. And the reason why I say that, I know people are feeling a lot better about our front 7, but we have a little problem in that we play in the NFC East. So we really need to be exceptional up front because we're playing the Philly offensive line. The one thing Dallas has shown is they will not relent in putting resources into their offensive line. Just when you think, Tyron Smith's retired, they draft Guyton. Just when you think, oh, Zach Martin's or something. No, they drafted Booker, and they got the other Tyler Smith and Cooper Beebe, and then very, very quietly, Washington's done a tremendous job of rebuilding their line. I didn't think Sam Cosmi would be a great player, but he's turning into a great player. And they got Jeremy Towns, the kid they drafted out of Oregon in the first round. He's like perfect for their scheme because he can really move.
Yeah, Connerly.
And Tyler Biadasz. So we got the problem that we have what's looking like three very strong offensive lines, and I'd like the Giants' D-line to be the type of D-line that can play well against really good offensive lines, not just make hay against mediocre, subpar offensive lines. It's a requirement of the NFC East.
Well, you remember now, for the last 2 months, I've been saying to John, I'd have no trouble taking 2 defensive tackles in this draft. I was all on board with that. But right now, here's the problem, right? The problem for me right now is that you still need to address, I think, the power running back. And this is the sweet spot for it.
I agree with that.
So I'd have to push off the DT behind that priority. I probably, again, it's getting thin at the offensive line. If you want someone who's really got anything left, you're going to have to do that. And then the other thing is at corner depth. So I guess I agree with your point. I just don't know if you've got the room to address it. Especially since they lost the draft pick in the Dart deal.
So Bashal Toon went to the Jaguars at pick 2. That was in the Browns trade, and now the Giants are on the clock. Victor Cruz and Brandon London. Brandon's not going to let Victor talk, is he? I think he's just going to keep going, pretty much. Is that what we're looking at here?
We're never going to get the pick as long as Brandon's got the mic.
No, Victor's going now. He's doing the salsa with a bunch of Germans. It's very awkward. It's great. But the Giants pick is in, and Paul, I think you might be happy here. The Giants, and I'm going to be happy too, because I think both of us were excited about this player.
Yeah!
It is Skattebo, the running back out of Arizona State.
Whoa!
Paul, you have your power running back. Let me give my spiel first, because then I'm going to have to run out for a minute, and then you can come back here. Awesome balance. Plays with a low center of gravity. Runs with power. Has a quick jump cut. Breaks second best tackle breaker in this class after Ashton Genty. Finishes his runs. Pushes the pile. Has quickness. Really thick. Good vision to hit the hole. He just doesn't have great top speed. He ran in the 4.6s.
That's right.
Whatever. That's fine. He also, by the way, is a great receiver out of the backfield. He can catch the football, too. So, to me, he is a... And look, Tyrone Tracy's awesome. I love Tyrone Tracy. He's still going to be a big part of this offense. But if they needed Skattebo, too, he could be an legit every down back in the National Football League. So, I think they got a really nice combo now with him and Tracy. Both guys, frankly, can do it all. So, I think it's great.
Yeah, this is such a great fit. And the thing about him, too, and you mentioned the hands, John, imagine this force of nature. You get him out there against a linebacker or even against a safety or anybody out on the perimeter, and you get him a short pass and he gets up some steam. They're not going to be real happy or anxious to take him down. This guy is a force. But more importantly, he is the type of guy who can electrify your lineup, your bench, your huddle, and your crowd. Skattebo is a guy who will not only excel in your 4-minute offense as you try to bludgeon your opponent into submission, he's also the guy who will light that stick of dynamite under your offense and even your whole roster, much like Brandon Jacobs did. He is an emotionally charged impact kind of guy whose presence will draw out better things in his teammates. It's not just about his numbers for me. It's about what he brings as a complete package. So yes, got to be thrilled with that pick if you're the Giants.
Yeah, I think you have to be, and he's a good player. I had a second-round grade on him. I think he's that good of a running back just because he can do it all, except, again, he doesn't have the long speed. That's the only thing you're missing with him.
And not great jukes. He's not going to, dance and juke you either.
No, but he can make people miss in the hole.
He can make people miss, but not with the kind of jukes we're talking about. He's not a scat back kind of juke.
No,
guy.
He's not a scat back.
That's not what he is.
But he can make people miss.
He'd rather hurt people.
Yeah, but he had the second highest, he had the second most broken tackles in college football last year after Genty. So he's not just a run into people and fall down.
Oh, no. He will run through people.
Yes.
You can't arm tackle him. You just can't. So, hey, great pick. Great pick.
All right, let's get reactions to the fans at 201-939-4513. James in Georgia's up next. Hey, James.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for taking my call. Y'all doing a great job.
What's up?
I really appreciate it. The Giants stole my thunder with picking Cam Skattebo before y'all could bring me on. And I said, you know what? I think they should choose Skattebo right here. But I know y'all. I think John, you had him on your board, and I was about to ask about Samson because he was, watching the TV broadcast. Daniel Jeremiah still had him on his board, but the Giants are doing a great job. How many picks do we have left? 3?
Yes, 1 in the 5th, 2 in the 7th.
Correct.
Okay, and like I was saying yesterday, just gonna bring it up just because I know I tweeted y'all in the 5th round or later. There's no risk at choosing Shedeur Sanders just to have another quarterback in the room, and I would keep 4 quarterbacks and figure out the 53-man roster because you only have the other 2 on your year for this year, and when Winston's going to be your backup, and you can release him after next year if you think you're good to go with the 2 rookies that you got. And they did kind of just mention
James, stop. Enough. I'm tired of hearing about Shedeur Sanders. I'm done with it. He hasn't gone in the draft. I get it. I feel bad for him. I hope he gets picked and goes to a good team. It's not happening. Right,
but what, you know how, like I was going to mention this yesterday when RG3 and Kirk Cousins both went. I mean, it's not unheard of that you can pick 2 quarterbacks in the same draft.
Yes, I understand.
It's not, it's not like an illegal move here, but the guy that put up 4,000 yards had the highest completion percentage, albeit a lot of it screens and stuff. You're not asking them to start tomorrow or next year.
Well, real quick, James, and then we're gonna drop this. But
the value,
real question for you. If Shedeur Sanders comes here, when Washington drafted RG3 and Kirk Cousins, was there any question with the fan base who the starting quarterback between those 2 guys was?
No.
If Shedeur Sanders, and then let me finish. If Shedeur Sanders got drafted by the Giants, would there not be half the fan base that is screaming for one guy and half the fan base that's screaming for the other?
So just like y'all said, let the best man win. Who's going to win? You know what I'm saying? You got to let it play out.
I know, but James,
logic does not always play into this.
No, but James, that is not healthy for the quarterback position. You want to have a guy that the team. Do you want a split locker room? And half the locker room wanting one guy as a starter and half the locker room wanting the other guy as a starter?
James, you're letting your own personal emotions kind of guide your words here. Do yourself a favor and just kind of put that to the side and understand that from a football and business perspective, it does not make any sense.
And James, if he was playing a different position, you'd be right. You picked the best player. But at the quarterback position, it would open up such a can of worms of conflict within the locker room and the team where I think it would be more counterproductive than what you're giving it credit for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but I also think that you still have to, one, we're going with Russell Wilson this year. That's already been decided. And then we have a quarterback. What's wrong with the quarterback competition?
I just explained to you what's wrong with the quarterback competition.
It's going to cause unbelievable distraction. You don't want to do that to yourself.
And again, James, the problem is that you're going to split the locker room. I don't care about the fans. You don't want the locker room split on who you want to play.
You think I think we have veteran leadership that'll be in place to say, hey,
James,
this is what's happening. Let the best man win.
I appreciate your opinion.
Happen in the league?
I appreciate your opinion, and there's validity to it. I appreciate the call, thank you, but it's not going to happen.
Sometimes, and I appreciate again your perspective, and depending upon what angle you're looking at, you can come up with all kinds of reasons to push forth any kind of idea that you choose. Okay, I understand that. You're free to have whatever thoughts you want to have. I'm simply telling you from a foundational perspective, it just doesn't make enough sense.
All right, Paul, I got to run.
And I will see you later.
Yes.
Enjoy the conversation with the Scouts.
Thank you.
201-939.
Okay, I didn't say why I was going, but okay.
Okay, well, 201-939-4513 is our number here on the Giants Draft Reaction Show. Paul Dottino with you. We'll get John back in here just a little bit. But in the meantime, we are reviewing Cam Skattebo from Arizona State, taken with the Giants' fourth-round choice. Pearson, why don't we go to Coach Marvin? And he is next on the program. Coach, very glad you had a chance to call in. We haven't heard from you the first couple of days.
Yeah, I've been kind of. How you doing anyway, Paul?
Very well, thank you. How you been?
I'm doing okay. I've been listening. I'm here. When John come back, tell him I said hi.
Okay.
I think this was a good pick. I kind of yelled out a little bit when his name came up. It was Skattebo's name came up. They did an excellent job in this draft as they did last year. I thought about the offensive guard. What is it? Membo.
Membo from Purdue,
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I thought about him if they could have. Would they want to go down in the trenches like you always say? And I kind of agree with you. You're winning in those trenches if they would have went that way. But Skattebo, it was a few guys I did like on the receiver side. Skattebo, there was a few guys still on the board that they can get. So they did a good job. I'm impressed with what they did. As far as the guy that was just calling, I'd just like to encourage him. Y'all not going to change his mind.
No.
Shador, I love Shador. You wasn't in on last Wednesday, and I was looking for you last Wednesday, but I talked to John, and what I thought they were going to do, they weren't going to take him at 3, but I said that some way, somehow, I feel they're going to go back and get Shador. They did go back and get a quarterback, but it wasn't Shador. So my heart's broken for him, but it's done as far as the Giants. He's not coming here. And you guys are totally right. I mean, I was on a coaching young kids that's volunteering to come play. They pay to come play, and they think they can play quarterback. And what happens if I got 2 of them? It's just a big problem, coaching-wise. You got them on the sideline. You may even have another coach that you think we should put him in. It's controversial. You're divided no matter how you did it, and you can't play this game divided. They all got to be one.
No doubt, Coach. No doubt, because no matter what you think you can rationalize on paper, in real situations, dynamics are often very different than what's on paper.
Yes, it is. It's definitely different. Even right now, I'm looking at it. We look good right now, but I'm not going to get over and enthusiastic about it. They got to go out and perform, and it looks good on paper, but you don't play this game on paper.
No.
It's played on the field. So my thing to him is it's very difficult to have 2 of those guys on the field. And you definitely not the whole locker room would be divided. The whole fan base will be divided. You may even we have 2 owners, and those 2 owners may be divided in who should be playing. It just runs right through the organization, and you don't want that. And unfortunate for Shador, I hope he does get picked up. And they're doing a good job. Oh, one thing I want to say, I hope Mr. Mara kind of listened to these. My thing is, and I can't tell them anything because they've been an excellent family. My plea to them, give these guys another 2 more years to coach this team, regardless of what the record is. I just want them to compete. If they compete, I think they're going to need time to build this team. Give them 1 year. It's not going to do it, and then bring a whole new staff in. But from one of the fans that appreciated this team, I asked Mr. Mara and Mr. Tisch, you got to think about giving them more than 1 year. I think they need not just this year, 2 more years on top of this year, and then make that decision what you're going to do.
Well, Coach, I think the offseason acquisitions, and thanks for the call. Please get back to us again during the course of the week. I think there's no doubt in my mind that between the free agent acquisitions and now these draft picks, and again, there are still a couple more to go for sure, 3 more to go actually, the Giants are an improved team. It's quite clear. On paper, they are an improved team from last year. And that's the mandate, right? The mandate is feel much better about the team at the end of this season than they did at the end of last season. Well, the arrow's certainly pointing in that direction, and pretty strongly in that direction. How much still remains to be seen, but the odds are pretty good that that's going to happen based on the roster moves that this team has made to this point. Let's go to Maurice in Montclair. You're next on the Giants Draft Reaction Show. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? How we doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Pretty good. Listen, I love what the team is doing so far. I've had my own opinions, but I'm not going to go there. Congratulations to everybody, especially the guys that we selected. But, Paul, I wanted to talk about something specific.
Yeah.
Explain to me now, how do you see the Giants' linebacking core, sort of the atmosphere around it, the projections, what the hope is, who's projected to do what? Because I like what the team is doing, addressing all the other areas. I feel like we've got stronger cornerback, safety, etc. But, like, are we just looking at the linebacker position like, okay, we're good, sort of like we did with other positions in the past? Or are we still looking to add to that? And is there any player available that you deem, worthy to come in and, like, fit in somehow and possibly be, like, the main guy? And then I got one more, but I'll take this one.
Okay. First of all, are you considering the edge rushers part of the linebacking core, or are you just talking about the inside linebackers?
Yeah, sorry about that. I want to be more specific. Sorry, yes, the inside linebackers. Because I know a lot of these kids do profile as linebackers, but they're just edge guys.
I know. The nomenclature and the semantics have changed so much over the years. Technically, Burns and Thibodeau and Carter, they're edge guys now. They're not outside linebackers anymore because we've changed the wording. So we're going to go inside linebackers. I believe the Giants believe that they will get better production out of Okereke and out of McFadden. And quite honestly, if Carter winds up playing some in the two linebacker set inside in place of McFadden, I think they think right there, okay, that they're going to get a tremendous boost in production from those guys because of what they've done to enhance their defensive line up front, keeping the laundry off of those guys. I think that's number one. That's point number one. Point number two, to add to that question, is that I think they like Muasau as a guy who can be a competent reserve. He did play some last year and showed some flashes. I think they believe they got some depth in terms of, the ability to at least hold the fort if they need to go there. Deontay Johnson is still back. And you remember when he busted up his knee, he was looking like he was going to be something, and then he got hurt.
Right.
And now he's still on the team to compete. So I think he'll compete with Muasau, and quite honestly, Chris Board, who was signed from the Ravens primarily because he's a special teams demon, he also has the ability to play some inside linebacker. So you put that together with the fact that the class of inside linebackers is not particularly strong or deep, I would suggest that maybe you don't see any inside linebackers during the course of the rest of the draft.
Right, because the only thing I'm worried about, and I'm going to switch gears real quick, and I'm going to take everything off the air.
Sure.
The only thing I'm worried about is, God forbid, we all know it comes with the sport, but injuries, because it's happened to us so many times. Once our lead guy goes down, and then, there's really not that great of an insurance behind them, to really keep things together. But I'll throw this one at you, Paul. Everything that we've done up front on the D-line is amazing. I think that's a major upgrade. But hit me with this one. What's the thoughts on Elijah Chapman, and how's the numbers going to break down, and is he on the bubble sort of? And what's going on with Chapman? Do we still look at him as one of these guys that could possibly become like a significant guy in the NFL?
Well, thanks for the call, Maurice. And the answer is, as I said last night, somebody called up with the very same question. It's competition. The Giants know that they needed to improve not only just defensively as a whole, because the secondary gave up a bunch of big plays. They went and spent some money to do that in free agency. But now what have they done here? Okay, they have now added Carter to the front seven. They've added Alexander to the front seven, and that ignores the fact that they also signed Golston in free agency off of the Cowboys, a guy who's just now getting into his prime. So they've added 3 important pieces, and there are a couple other guys like Ledbetter and so forth and so on who I don't know exactly how they're going to fit. But in terms of the more marquee additions, 3 guys to the front seven. This is going to be a dramatically improved defense. I don't see any other way to explain it other than if injuries do decimate them. That's always the wild card. But on paper, this is a dramatically improved defense, not just a little bit better, a lot better. Now, in terms of Chapman specifically, Andre Patterson, the Giants' defensive line coach, is a huge fan of his. And we saw how he was able to get him into the rotation last year as an NFL player. Now, what Chapman does from here in terms of his improvement during the offseason, whatever it is that he's doing with his offseason workout program, and then how does he work out when he gets to spring drills? How does it play out during the course of the summer camp? That's all on him. He's going to be part of a very, very heated competition for the backup linemen on this team. You got to remember something. There are some other guys, too, who are going to be chomping at the bit and try to take food off of his plate. And that's just the way it goes. You know, we know Riley's here. We know Davidson's still here. Nacho is still here. I mean, there's only so many forks at the dinner table. And these guys are going to be fighting for every bit of peas and carrots and mashed potatoes that they can get their hands on. And so Chapman will have an uphill battle. I don't think there's any doubt because the competition has increased dramatically in that defensive line room. And if he wins a spot, it will be well earned. And of course, whoever wins the spot is to the betterment of the Giants because the winners, in theory, will improve your football team. Let's go back to the calls. We have, I believe, is it Jason in New Haven, Pearson? And good morning. You're next on the Giants Draft Reaction Show.
Hey, Paul, how you doing, buddy?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm loving it so far, man. I mean, of course, you know, these things have to be played out on the playing field, of course, but you know, so far so good. I think Shane's done it. I thought he did a good job last year in the draft. I think he's had a knock out of the park free agency period and the draft so far. You know, granted, these guys pan out. You know, I think he's doing a really good job. Cam was kind of unexpected in my opinion, but he's I told you guys I'm a Longhorns fan, and watching him play us in that semifinal game, I mean, he pretty much was their offense. It was pretty impressive. Seeing the Longhorns had a pretty good defense, and he pretty much gashed them the whole game, whether it was receiving, running the ball. I think he threw a pass in the game, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, he's a real tone setter, in my opinion.
Yes.
A real opposite of now. Tracy runs hard too. I don't, you know, he's a pretty he runs pretty hard for his size, but Cam gives us this different dynamic in the backfield. So, you know, that running back competition in the summer is going to be really interesting. You know, because Cam and Tracy are making the team. I would, you know.
Oh yeah,
those two are making the team. So it's going to be interesting to see how many running backs we carry, and you know. And that is concerned. Abdul, of course, you know, I have no complaints with that. The pick of Dart was I won't say shocking. You know, I know I've called and said I was a Shador fan. I'm not even going to go down that path because he's not on our team, so I'm not even going to comment on that.
Thank you.
But you know, and you know, good luck to him. Hopefully a team takes a chance on him because I think he has talent. But Dart, hey, Dave will like some, so that's good enough for me. If he thinks he could work with him, you know, I'm fine with it. And then the Darius Alexander kid, and you just mentioned, Paul, the D-line is really shaping up to be a really, really nice looking part of our team, from Dex to Kayvon to Abdul to Burns to Golston. You know, I know people don't know too much about Ledbetter, but he's a I think he'll be the backup nose guard. I don't think people realize he's a really good run defender in the league. I know he doesn't have like a big name people don't know about, but
right.
he's a really good two-gapper, you know, so I think he's going to really give us some good snaps.
Jason, I love the versatility that they've added to the line. It's not just the talent that they've added, but Golston has the ability to be a run-setting end or a three technique, and Alexander, who's primarily a three technique, could also do some of that. I see the additions as not only giving them numbers of quality players, but the versatility and the opportunity to change things up depending upon the matchup. If you're playing a power rushing team or not, you might even see guys with 4 down linemen. You might see 4 down linemen this year at times.
And the thing with Abdul is he played off-ball linebacker.
Yes.
So you can move him around. You can spy him for the likes of Hurts and the young man in Washington and Dak. You know, you have a lot of weapons you can use, you know, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse here because these things have to be played out in training camp, preseason, and in the season. But on paper, we're looking good. And a few more names before I let you go because I know you got the caller.
Sure.
I'm with the other caller. I think I would like to see another linebacker taken. It doesn't have to be the next pick in the 5th round. But to me, there's some interesting names. Stutzman from Oklahoma. We got Chris Paul of Ole Miss. You know, there's some nice looking linebackers, and also the offensive line. There's some interesting names available. You know, I don't know what the team thinks about them. Of course, I'm not in those rooms, but some guys I like: Cameron Williams from Texas. You got Jack Nelson from Wisconsin, Holland Pierce from Rutgers, Jalen Travis. You got some guards in the mix. You know, Marcus Embo, which I'm surprised he's still on the board.
That's the guy who I think has fallen the most of the offensive linemen that I watched. I think Miles Frazier from LSU, I've talked about him a lot. I like Miles Frazier, but I think this is the sweet spot for him. And the Giants didn't go there. They went to the running back, which, as we've discussed, we're both okay with. But I think this would have been the sweet spot for Frazier. Embo, I think, should have gone around earlier. I don't know why he's still there.
He's still there.
Yeah.
And one more name, the D-tackle. I wouldn't be opposed, you know, depending on how the draft falls with Shane and Dable and those guys. I wouldn't mind taking another look at it. You know, I know we only have, 3 more picks, if I'm not mistaken, so it's kind of tough. But I wouldn't also mind, you know, if the draft falls and best player available, I wouldn't mind looking at another D tackle. There's some good, you know, nose tackles still left. Cam Jackson of Florida.
Joshua Farmer.
You know, you got C.J. West.
I know.
You got Ty Hamilton, Jordan Phillips. So there's some really good names still left on this board. So I'll let you guys go, but so far so good. I have no complaints, and go Giants. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. You know, as we discussed with John a little bit earlier, and I've said this a number of times in the last month or so, Pearson can vouch for me, I was all on board with taking 2 defensive tackles. You know, take a plugger, but also take a 3-technique penetrator. But that's when they had their full complement of draft choices. Once they made the trade for Dart, and they lost one of the 3rd-round picks, that now lessened the amount of shots you would have at the cupboard. Once that happened, it kind of changed my priority now. It was like, okay, if they can get a really high-quality defensive tackle prospect, you might just have to live with one because you had to have enough of picks to also go get a legit running back, potentially a competitive offensive lineman, and then also the depth cornerback guy. And that's where we're kind of at now. They got the 5th rounder. To me, they're going to have to figure out with the 5th rounder, is there an offensive lineman still worth taking by the middle of the 5th round who can compete for a job given the line that they have right now and the guys on the depth chart in the room? That's what the question's going to be for me as to whether or not, you know, obviously you still want to go best player available, but if you're going to try to match up need with value, is the best offensive lineman at that point able to compete for a job realistically when you have some other guys still in this room, right? You have Izudu, and you have Kubas. You have some guys in that room already, young fellas, who they've worked with Carmen Brasillo for a year and would like to continue their upswing and their opportunity to be in the National Football League. So you kind of have to grade that, and we're getting real thin now. I just don't know there's going to be an offensive lineman at that point that you feel good about. The other thing is the corner spot. I like Burke out of Ohio State. He's got really good traits. A little bit up and down, a little bit inconsistent. I totally understand that. I think, though, he's certainly someone who you'd want to consider in the 5th round because I think the value is there based on the pure toolbox if you were looking to enhance the cornerback spot. And then, Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech is the other one who I kind of like in that spot potentially. Really good ball skills, physical, he wraps up. I think that would be another guy you might want to talk about in the 5th because once you get past that pick in the 5th round, there's no 6th round choice here, right? They've only got 2 7s after the 5th round pick. You're not going to get an offensive lineman, in all likelihood, who has a chance to compete at 7. In all likelihood. Anything's possible for sure. Heck, Richie Seibert was an undrafted rookie free agent. Kubas, undrafted rookie free agent. Nick Gates a couple years ago, a few years ago now, undrafted rookie free agent. It could still happen. But if you want to get one of those guys for sure, you may have to do it in the 5th. The corner, you may have to do it in the 5th. So that's kind of why, to me, I'm not really thinking inside linebacker in addition to everything that I just said earlier to the caller. Jerome in Charlotte, you're next on the Giants Draft Review Show. How you doing?
Hi, y'all done stole most of my thunder about the draft. I'm loving it. I think the team is going to be much better this year. I see playoff possibilities already, and it's not even over with yet. But my biggest question or concern is with Russell Wilson.
Okay.
If he leads us to the playoff, is it possible we re-sign him and keep that momentum going, see how far we can go, or you think that he'd be one and done?
Well, they signed him to a 1-year deal for a reason. It does not include a second-year team option, right? So
Right.
I think they were being straight with him and said, look, the way we're looking at this right now, it's in all likelihood going to be 1 year. So let's just commit to the 1 year. And maybe even Wilson told the Giants, look, if you guys wind up drafting a young quarterback, I don't want to be in the same spot that Kirk Cousins is in with Atlanta, where he signed a multi-year deal, and then they went and drafted Michael Penix, and now Cousins feels betrayed, and he wants out of Atlanta because they went and they drafted a kid. So maybe Wilson was the one who wanted the 1-year deal and not the Giants wanting to give him a 1. I don't know the answer to that. I was never in those negotiations. They took 11 days of negotiations to get that thing signed. So there must have been a lot of give and take and different ideas on both sides of that fence before they came to an agreement. My simple logical answer to you is that Russell Wilson's going to be 37 by midseason. Not 57, 37. So if Russell Wilson has a really good year and the Giants do something with this season and become a postseason team, I don't think it's totally out of the question that they might want to talk to him and ask him if he wanted another year. At the same time, Russell Wilson may say, I have now re-enhanced my value to the league because after that slump with Pittsburgh, maybe my stock was down a bit. And now if I've raised it with the Giants, maybe he thinks he can go somewhere else and get an even better deal. So I think all doors and possibilities are open. But I think as we sit here today, you're probably looking at the odds are Wilson is a 1-year deal. Does that answer your question?
No. Yes, it does. I was feeling that, but I wasn't sure. Y'all, y'all make me look good because I take what y'all say and tell all my friends and colleagues and other people. It almost seems like I should be an analyst, but I just repeat what y'all say. And
do we get any royalties on that?
Man, you're a really good fan. I'm like, yeah, well, I just do my homework and study. I watch stuff, but mostly I just repeat what y'all say, and y'all make me look and feel good.
Well, we not only do we appreciate you listening, we also appreciate you for spreading the word and calling into the program. So thank you so much. And John is back. Did you have a good time?
That was really, really good. I don't know how we're going to use that and when we're going to use it, and hopefully it will get used. But yeah, what I did was very interesting.
I'm glad, and we will talk about it later.
Yes.
In the meantime, you should know the fan base.
He just ate lunch.
The barbecue and the cookies.
I don't know how we're going to use it, but
so this whole thing was a scam. You just wanted Pearson and I to starve while you fed your face.
I was hungry. Can I tell you? All right, so I have no idea who even went. So we had Craig Woodson, Jack Kaiser, Dante Thornton, Deion Walker went. Okay.
Yep.
Ty Robinson, CJ West, Trevor Etienne went, Cody Simon. Any trade ups here from NFC East teams or anything? Oh, the Eagles drafted Ty Robinson.
Yeah, I saw that. So far, I would say certainly we got some calls on Skattebo, and there's positive response for sure.
Good. That's what I like to hear. All right, let's go to Tony in Arizona, who was up close and personal with Cam Skattebo this year. Tony,
yes.
what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Preach, Tony. Tell us.
I watch this kid play every game. This kid plays with heart. He plays with respect. And what I like about what the Giants have done with this draft is they're changing mindset, and they're really going to stamp up the competition in camp with the guys who've been there. I mean, this is my own. I've been a Giant fan since '68 when I was a kid. I think Shane took the hit signing the quarterback. I think that was Mara that did that. Shane's going to take the hit. But if you look at what Shane has done, I didn't want to give up Barkley, but what was Barkley going to get? 1,200 yards? We didn't have a line. We're getting better at the line. We're not going to be able to fill all the holes in this draft. We're probably going to, as Paul said, if an offensive lineman is not there, which obviously I think they took Skattebo because they knew he went last, even though they might have wanted an offensive lineman. I think they're really changing the mindset. And Dart, look, Phil Simms, one thing about Phil was his accuracy, but he had a strong arm. And in Giant Stadium with those crosswinds, you need a strong-armed quarterback. And I think they saw with Jackson Dart, this is a kid from a mentality standpoint, a respect standpoint, a talent standpoint. He is the type of quarterback that's going to do well and fit into Dable's system. We all know it's about the system. You may do well in another place because the system fits better for you as a player. So I think the Giants have taken a major step forward here. If they play 500 this year, it's a win. I hope Mara does the right thing and gives these two guys contracts because as players, you want to know that your coach is going to be there, your GM is going to be there. This isn't going to, solve all our problems overnight, but I think they took a major step in the right direction. And I truly appreciate what you guys do. I enjoy listening to the show, and I feel good about the season ahead.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate the call. 201-939-4513. I'm not going to get into the Daniel Jones re-signing thing. The ownership would not force the GM to sign a player he doesn't want him to sign.
Never.
Just putting that out there. And coming off a playoff year, you're just not going to get rid of your quarterback. That's just not a realistic situation. We're not going to dive into that whole situation again. It was what it was. It didn't work out. And
especially not a young quarterback.
Correct. I will say this. The level of intensity and competitiveness from I haven't been up close with Alexander. I'm assuming he has it too. I just don't have a feel for him like I do the other guys.
The electricity comes off the tape.
But in terms of personality, Jackson Dark is a competitor.
Oh, yes.
Abdul Carter has an edge to him just walking around the facility. You get a feel that there's always an intensity to him. And then Cam Skattebo, my gosh, the way that dude plays, he just plays like a bulldozer, where he plays with a force of personality and force of will, where I really think you did add to some, really tough, physical, competitive guys that play with an edge to this roster. You don't need everybody to be a Boy Scout. Some guys can be jerks, and that's okay. I'm not saying these guys are jerks, but you want the guys playing like that on the field. where they get under the skin of opponents because they play with a certain ferocity and a certain energy. That's a good thing. I like that.
Well, on Big Blue Kickoff Live, you have the cut from Lawrence Taylor about going
Right.
and play like a bunch of crazy
and by
wild
the way,
dogs.
and that's the thing, like you talk to these guys, they're all very nice. Like the guys came into our studio and did stuff. Dart and Carter, they were awesome. You know, we talked to Skattebo at the combine. Seems like a really nice kid. Oh, really nice kid. But when they get on the field, it's like a transformation where like these guys are animals, which is good. You like that.
And you have to understand, for guys who are in that huddle and on that sideline, who maybe don't have that extra shot of adrenaline or that extra spark that day, when they see a teammate go out there and do that kind of thing, it takes them with him.
I mean, it's like Dexter. Dexter's a good dude, but when he gets on the field, he's a killer.
Yes. And when he makes a play and he does his little, stomach shake and everything.
Stomach shake.
Well,
I guess that's a stomach shake, sure.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody gets into it. It's an inspiring kind of thing.
Looks like he's kind of like winding something up with each arm.
Yeah,
right? He kind of does
like
the wind thing.
I'm
not going to try to imitate that.
I was going to say, has anyone ever asked him what that's called?
No, I don't think so.
We need to do that.
It's the sexy Dexy.
Yeah, I guess it is.
All right,
kind of
I guess that's what it
Dexy.
is.
True.
Okay,
All
fine.
right, we got 2 more calls. Let's get to them. Let's go to Rich in Virginia first, Pearson. Rich, what's going on?
Hi, John and Godfather. Actually in Florida now. Just I concur with almost all the callers. I like what JS and BD have done here. But, Paul, I want to go back to your comments on the O-line. That is exactly my concern. JS brought in all these free agents. I think, and you'll probably agree, that most of those guys are for depth. My concern is, with our lousy injury history, last year AT went down, Illuminor went down, you had Kubas in there and Stenny. But, considering the schedule we play plus the NFC East, that's my concern. It's just D-line has been improved tremendously, but that O-line, you got to protect Russell Wilson. So I couldn't concur with you more. That's still my concern.
Understood. It's getting really, really thin, though, in terms of what's on the shelf of this draft.
Well, and I don't think at this point you're drafting anyone that's going to challenge for a
It
starting
doesn't
spot.
seem like it to me.
So, even a guy like M'Bow, who is a good player, he's more of like a raw developmental guy. He's not a guy you're going to plug in right away, I don't think.
Here's the thing. We don't
all the running backs are coming off now, by the way.
Whoa.
Well, we talked about the running back sweet spot in the 4th round, right?
The heart of the beefsteak tomato, right?
And by
here.
the way, we talk about it. So you've had Bashal Tootin go off the board in this round. We talked about Cam Skattebo go off the board. We had Woody Marks from USC come off the board. Jarquez Hunter just came off the board. So I just listed all these running backs. Well, guess what? Dylan Sampson, Damian Martinez, Devin Neal, Jordan James, DJ Giddens, and Bashard Smith are all still there. That's how good this running back class is.
Oh, sure. I think all the way back at the Combine, we had people telling us you could probably go early 3rd round. It's not 3rd, 5th round.
And
5th
I think
and still get a guy.
And I think that's going to be the case here.
Yeah, but there's
I didn't
only
mean to
one.
interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No. There's only one Skattebo, though.
There is only one
and
Skattebo.
the truth is, I remember telling John I'd love to get him in the 4th, and you convinced me you probably got to get him in the 3rd. You can't get him in the 4th.
Hey, and I was wrong.
So I think we settled at 99. But
we might have.
We did.
Yeah, we might have.
We settled at 99 that, okay, that's realistic, maybe at 99, and then the Giants traded 99.
Well, luckily 105 was only 6 off of 99.
Thank goodness. Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought he would go between 65 and 99. That's where I thought the range was going to be for him. Even though I had him graded higher, I thought he was more of an early 3rd, mid-3rd type
I know.
of guy.
I got it.
It worked out. All right, final call of the show is Cliff in New York. He will wrap us up today. Hi, Cliff. Folks, and the only reason we're getting off, we have to. The NFL limits our streaming time on Saturday to an hour, so we're just doing what we have to do. We'd love to be on longer. Pearson begged for it. He called the league himself and said, I just want to keep working. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that.
But we'll be back tomorrow morning.
Yes, on WFN from 8 to 10 a.m. That is correct, Paul. Good call. Cliff, what's up?
Okay. Obviously, we've accomplished a lot. I have 2 questions on the front 7 on defense. Have we accomplished an upgrade for when Dexter Lawrence leaves the field for a series?
Well,
I think when Dexter Lawrence leaves the field for a series, it's going to be Ledbetter, the nose tackle you got from Jacksonville.
At this point, that's the only guy I think who could possibly take those snaps adequately.
And frankly, he was probably going to be better right away than whatever, unless you were picking a nose tackle on day 2, he was going to be better than whatever nose tackle you got in the draft.
Yeah. Because you know what, Cliff, in all honesty, this was one of the reasons, in fact, it was the primary reason why I said to John, I would like to try to get 2, a plugger and a penetrator. But as I discussed earlier, once they traded that pick in the Dart deal, now you had fewer picks. You had the same amount of holes to fill. You're probably going to have to go with what you got.
Okay. And then the other thing is, you've mentioned a number of times about Okereke and McFadden benefiting greatly from improvements up in front of them.
Absolutely.
What about when they leave the field like they did last year because of injury? Do we have an upgrade to? It looked like we didn't have an upgrade sufficient to replace them last year.
Well, you're not going to get anybody at this point, I don't think. I just saw Simon went off the board, by the way, Ohio State. He just went off the board.
Oh, the linebacker?
Yeah.
Okay.
He just went off the board.
No, I mean so far, Paul.
He was about the only guy who I kind of in the back of my mind thought, like, if he drops, you might want to consider him.
Jeffrey Bassa would be a guy.
It's getting really thin.
Bassa from Oregon's a good player. Danny Stutzman went off the board, right? He's gone. Demetrius Knight went off the board. He's gone.
It's thin. It's really thin.
You're starting to thin it out now.
What I said to the guy before, Cliff, I don't know if you joined us while the other callers were on, but look, they've got what they've got, right? You got Mosau, right. You got Board, who came in from Baltimore, who's a phenomenal special teams player, but has played some inside linebacker. I mean, your depth is going to be a little thin there. That's just the way it's going to be. You know that in sub situations, you got the ability to also play Carter as an off-ball linebacker, and if you're playing in a dime, he's going to be one of the 2 linebackers on the field. I don't think it's that much of a concern.
Well, that's good. The thing I noticed about Carter when I just saw his picture for the first time, he has the neck of a linebacker. That's for sure.
Boy.
Yes, he does.
He is thick.
Cliff, we got to run. We're hitting our hour limit here. Paul, this was fun all 3 days, man. Really good job.
You got it, John. We'll do it tomorrow.
That's our draft reaction show presented by Crestron from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better, as Paul mentioned. 8 a.m. tomorrow, WFAN. Paul and I will be with you. We have an exclusive interview with Joe Shane that will air on that show that you're not going to hear anywhere else. So make sure you check that out. We are going to have some of the one-on-one interviews that Sean O'Hara and Madeline Burke have done with some of these draft picks over the last couple of days. Tony Pauline will be with us for the second hour of that show from 9 to 10. And, of course, we'll take all your calls. That'll be streaming on WFAN.com and the Odyssey app. So make sure you go check that out. WFN, Sunday morning, 8 a.m. For Paul Dottino and Pearson Butler. Pearson, great job these last 3 days. I am John Schmeelk. We will talk to you on Sunday morning. It never stops.